Hello and welcome to the Geek Cabal podcast, Cabal Whisperings. This is episode 25. I'm Bobby,
I'm Owen.
and today is Sunday, June 2nd that we're recording this. Obviously, it's not going to be up June 2nd, but just so you know, for reference, in case any or all of these things change between now and when we actually put this up. Jim couldn't be with us today. He's busy with something. He didn't tell me, but I presume he is actually busy. Owen, is that a fair assumption?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's something personal.
Okay, that's fair. Um, so anyway, it's just gonna be the two of us here today in Jim's basement. All his video games. Brought a Super Nintendo or something with me. A TV. But anyway, so we have some opening notes, and this first one's going to be kind of a somber one. Just in case you didn't see the video talking about this, there's another gentleman who, for those of you who watched our videos for a long time, saw him in some of the older videos, and was rather instrumental in things getting moving finally. Brad Williams, he passed away a few weeks ago. We did a video, memorializing him, and as of this recording, I don't have it up yet because we just recorded it a couple days ago, and wanted to edit it and everything. So it'll probably be up before this, but just in case you don't see it, that is what that video is about. Totally understandable if you're not inclined to watch that. It's not exactly a uplifting thing, but we didn't sit around and shed a bunch of tears or anything. We just talked about our memories of Brad and the kind of guy he was and everything, and tried to be as optimistic and uplifting as we can in that kind of situation, but you can only do so much. So, just want to spread that around in case you didn't see the other video. So now for a total gear shift that's going to be completely bizarre, but unfortunately life moves on. All right, we have some X-Men videos on the channel that I've done recently, talking about whether or not humans in the Marvel Universe are, I don't want to say right to fear mutants, but whether it's understandable, I suppose, is the term. Whether it's appropriate, I guess. Well, it's kind of a synonym for right, isn't it? But anyway, I've got 3 of those videos out there. There's going to be a 4th one, possibly a 5th one. So keep an eye out for those if you like the other 3. Also did some BattleTech Warhammer 40k videos. Those are more for people who have left the Warhammer 40k scene for whatever reason, because it seems like on a weekly basis, Games Workshop does something to piss a lot of people off. And a number of those people seem to be coming to BattleTech, so I did some videos to kind of hey, if you're on the fence, here's why you should consider BattleTech. 3 of those, that's only going to be 3 for a while. And that's the main stuff that's been going on with the channel lately. Unless I'm forgetting something, Owen, that you can think of.
Not at the moment. Maybe I'll pop in later.
All right. Oh, we did also do a video about the Phantom Menace. So since I haven't completely edited that one, just as a fair warning, we got about 47 minutes into it, and we were recording on Jim's phone, and then it's supposed to be a 20-minute video, and then his phone rang, which it shouldn't do while it's recording, which then we found out it had stopped recording about 20 minutes prior to that. So then we tried to record an ending because we couldn't just stop the video with my phone, and apparently there was some kind of incident there. It recorded all of 4 seconds. So then I recorded an ending and sitting in my car. And I just haven't edited it all together yet, but that's what you're in for when you watch that. It's cohesive up until the point that everything just dissolves. So, other than that, probably in our next podcast, there's a local gentleman who's just started his own channel. Got a few videos up. Looks like he's going to be focusing on the D&D and kind of the hobby side of things. I watched 2 of his videos that he has up already. and they're pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and link it down in the description. But as of this recording, he's only got like 3 videos up. So give him some time to get things going. But I like what he's got so far. So I recommend you folks check it out. Like I said, it's a lot of D&D and like modeling type content. The second one's going into paints and stuff like that. So can be some interesting stuff there. Like I said, I'll get that down in the description. And then we will have Gen Con content coming up very shortly. Sorry we missed some of the stuff is regarding the event ticketing. Real life, like the aforementioned topic at the opening, have kind of derailed some things. So, but we will have some stuff up soon. Chad and I are going over our older videos as far as the tips for Gen Con, see if we need to refine and remake those, plus anything we've learned since then. I'm probably going to be doing an update video because there's a few things that have popped up recently that sound kind of interesting that I want to just kind of get out there to other people. But other than that, I think that's the channel news for the moment. So, we'll go to our first section, movies. Have you seen any of the Mad Max movies?
Can't say that I have.
Okay, well, you're definitely missing out. So I finally made it to go watch Furiosa, and I don't know why it's not doing better at the box office. I thought it was a decent movie. It's very entertaining, definitely worth watching in a theater. I do see people attributing that, this is another girl boss movie or something, and it's definitely not. I mean, if you've seen Fury Road, this isn't a spoiler, but like, she loses her damn arm, and people close to her, and things do not always go her way, and she's not some kind of a super soldier. She's actually probably kind of lucky some things work out the way they do. And there's definitely cost to her in this movie. She's not Rey just walking through everything. She suffers loss. She suffers setbacks. And yeah, it's definitely not a girl boss movie by any stretch of the imagination. I think people maybe got that vibe. I don't know why, because again, if you saw Fury Road, you know that George Miller hasn't just gone off the deep end or anything. The only real complaint I have is that there was more obvious use of CGI in this over Fury Road, and the timetable seems a little sketchy because essentially this movie ends right before Fury Road begins, and I don't think enough time really passed to establish things to make that doable. But having said that, overall, like I said, I thought the movie was good. Definitely worth watching. There's a slim chance I'm going to end up seeing it again in theaters. So, I don't know. But that's going to tie into something else we're going to talk about here in a bit. Is that there seem to be people like the Critical Drinker who, yes, he's very much against what he refers to as the message, but he also, for the most part, gives movies fair critiques. Like he said, Furiosa was a decent movie. He enjoyed watching it. And people are kind of jumping on him for that. Like, oh, why aren't you, pissing all over this? And it's like, because it wasn't a bad movie. Because he actually knows that there's a line. It can't just be like, oh, there's a female lead, it has to be bad. No, that's not the complaint that sane people have. There are people in the grievance industry. In this case, they're the more right-leaning ones instead of the usual left-leaning ones. But we're going to talk about that after a while. So, that's the big one in movies. Then I came across an article asking the tough questions, like, is Anakin Skywalker actually a Skywalker? Now, before I go any farther, just to be clear, this whole article was in defense of Rey claiming the name Skywalker in the Rise of Skywalker. So it's the whole argument's built in bad faith. But there was something to it. So, Owen, before I present any potential arguments, you got any kind of thoughts or comments on that? Or any kind of guess? I don't remember if I told you about this article or not already.
Well, I know what the argument is.
Okay.
Well, I mean, saying that since he didn't have a father, he's not a Skywalker.
Yeah, I mean that's the basic of it. It's okay. I think this article went with he has a father. It's either Sidious or the Force, because like, well, you just can't not have a father. I'm like, well, there's space magic, so yeah, you can, but
I mean, that's like saying that, if you're adopted, you aren't actually.
yeah, I mean, so that's the argument they put forth is that okay, let's say it was Sidious using Sith magic, okay, so then his last name should probably be Palpatine, which again is the whole like just like Rey, uh, because it's obvious in Star Wars that last names work off the father because Luke's last name is Skywalker, just like Anakin, and there's a few other. Well, Rey would have initially been Palpatine, then decided to become Skywalker. Ben was Ben Solo, Han, some Imperial guy just made up his last name, so it counts.
Is Han really a Solo?
Now, there's the tough questions right there. See, in the old EU, we could answer this question because Han had a brother. His name was also Solo. So the answer is yes. Yeah. So then the alternative is, okay, so the Force created him. So is his last name the Force? Which, like, with a better first name would sound kind of badass, but, like, no. But I think it's okay just to default to, well, if you don't have a dad, clearly you would take your mother's last name. Like,
I mean,
why wouldn't you? So I think for any purposes that matter, I think the answer is yes. But it's an interesting thought exercise anyway, because of the unique nature of his conception. Like, well, technically, is he or isn't he? And if he's not, then Luke isn't. Leia never went by that name, so it doesn't matter. So she has all the check boxes. She has, maybe that's not a real last name, but she's also adopted.
Is Leia really an Organa?
Well, for legal purposes, yes, she is. So yeah, it's a messed up situation. But yeah, that's most of what I've got in movies. You watch anything recently worthwhile, Owen, or not worthwhile?
No, not me. I haven't been to theaters in a while. I know that, like, some of my family went to go see that movie, It, with Ryan Reynolds in it.
What did they have to say about it?
They didn't like it.
So for them, if we would have chosen a different movie.
Yeah, it was allegedly, from what they told me, it was just predictable the entire way.
Yeah. See, I'm torn on that concept of predictability because to kind of bring this back to Star Wars, I think like with the sequel trilogy, the part of the biggest problem is that, like, okay, The Force Awakens, it's predictable once you get into it because you realize they're just remaking A New Hope. The problem is we don't want that, but we still want to be in the safe space of Star Wars. Like, we still want, like, okay, Han, Luke, and Leia, like, show us that they've done something in the last 30 years that was meaningful. Sure, let's fight the Empire again. Who cares, Like there's certain things we want to keep, which make it predictable. We know the good guys are going to win in the end, and these things like this. But we want just enough different, but it's got to be the right kind of different. Because like the Last Jedi was different, it was really different, but it was really bad different. In the whole hope of like subverting expectations to become unpredictable, but you just become predictable because it's like, well, what's the dumbest thing that could happen here? That's probably what's going to happen. What do we expect to happen? Whatever the opposite of that is, that's what's going to happen. And so when you go that route, you're still predictable, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but you're predictable in a bad way. But like, say we give Rian Johnson back, all right, make a movie off over here, in like I don't know, somewhere in the galactic core, some worlds we've never seen, and like a plot line that we don't know anything about, some smugglers and this, that, and the other, just bare bones Star Wars stuff. But other than that, run with it. I think everyone would have been fine with that, because it would have been new, would have been unpredictable. But like for the main story, we want closure, which means it's going to probably be predictable. So, like I said, I'm torn on the whole predictable thing. Like,
I mean, Return of the Jedi was supposed to have been the closure.
well, sure, but since we're going to keep going, like,
Keep going with the sequel trilogy.
yeah, kind of like Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny. Like the Last Crusade was supposed to be closure. It's there in the title, but we didn't, so we're going to keep going. So I mean, Dial of Destiny was kind of felt like closure at the end.
I mean, was it better closure than the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
No, I actually like the end of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because Indy finally married Marion. It looked like Mutt was going to pick up the mantle, and he's like, "Give me my goddamn hat," and took off. And I was like, "That's right. Mutt is not Indy 2.0. He can be Mutt. He can go off his own adventures. That's fine." I actually didn't. I didn't hate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull like a lot of people did. I thought it was okay. There were parts I thought were stupid for sure, like the vine swinging scene, but and like whenever Indy's being sucked into the quicksand, all of a sudden decide to go into professor mode and explain that it's really like a dry pack or something. And I'm like, you should be more concerned about saving your life and not making sure Mud understands what's about to kill you. Like, I mean, good on you, teaching the younger generation right up to the end, but like, that's dedication. But, like, how about you just, not die? Like, yeah, I mean, other than that, I actually thought the movie was okay. I have zero problem with Indy dealing with aliens or interdimensional beings, whatever you want to call them. Like, the prior three Indiana Jones movies established that not one but two religions are actually right, and I don't know how that works because both the Ark and the Shankara stones work. So both the God of Abraham and the Hindu pantheon exist. Like, I don't know how we're supposed to square that circle, but like there it is. So whenever you got that, you see aliens, I'm like, why not? Of course there are. They probably have their own gods too.
And I mean, Dial of Destiny just went with that ship.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought a lot of Dial of Destiny was okay. I thought Indy, like whenever they escape from the boat, and the woman's like, "Oh, we made it," and Indy's sitting back there like, "My friend just got killed back there." Like that's what I expect Old Man Indy to sound like. Like I've had enough of this crap. Like I've lost a lot of friends along the way. Like I'm tired of losing them, and you're over here acting like this is some big shot adventure. Like we're only doing this because you're a dumbass at things. Like, yeah, I thought that was okay. I think Indy should have been allowed to stay behind if he truly wanted to. Obviously, it was the wrong choice, but like he's a grown man who's been on numerous adventures and has lived a life. He's lost his son. He's estranged with his wife. Like if he wants to die back in ancient Greece with Archimedes, then he's earned it. Let him. I'm that's just the way I look at it. But on the flip side, since he did come back, and it looks like Marion was going to get back with him, all right. Also, Harrison Ford is in fantastic shape for an 80-year-old man. From there, in the scene of the movie where he's not in his shirt, I was like, God damn, Harrison Ford's in better shape than I am, and he's twice my age. Like, That's rough, Owen. I'm just warning you right now. For when you get older, like, yeah, yeah. I mean, predictability is a hard one because, like I said, you want people want the things they're used to, but then they'll also tell you, "But we want something new." Then you give them something new, and they're like, "That sucked. I wanted something like what I already had." You know, and that's the problem. That's the problem Hollywood's in.
No, no, no. We want you to reuse the tropes, just not those tropes.
Yeah, or just like not in the same order. Like mix things around. I don't know what they are, but supposedly there's only like 7 plots, and like everything's just a rehashing, recombination of all of them. So I really should look up what those are someday. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's hard because like if you're too predictable, then everyone's like, it's probably solid. Look, it's predictable. I don't like it. But then if you're the Last Jedi, where you're kind of unpredictable, everyone's like, what the hell's this? Why'd you ruin Luke? Why'd you do this? It's like, well, you wanted something different. Yeah, but not that.
We're not trying to say The Last Jedi is a good movie.
No, absolutely not. It's bad. Very bad. Yeah. So, well, all I got on movies. There's some other movies we're going to talk about, but I watch them on streaming and they're a little bit older. And it's a doozy.
What's next?
Well, next would be books, but I'm still reading the same BattleTech book I was reading the last time. I just haven't made very much progress in it. Not the book's fault. I just have, started working more hours, so I just haven't been reading as much. Are you reading anything at the moment?
I mean, I'm still like, I still, I've been, I have a lot of books I have to read, and I've started, but I haven't finished.
Well, I know the feeling. I have, I want to say 4 books I'm in the middle of reading. I say in the middle, that's figure of speech. Like I'm most of the way through this book about how a lot of companies have very monopolistic practices and the government should really break them apart. However, I've gotten to the point where the author has been like, by the way, the answer to all this is socialism, and I'm just like, don't think so. So, like, for intellectual honesty, I'm going to have to finish the book, but, like, it has definitely taken a turn for the worse. And then there's the Battletech book. Still reading War and Peace. I'm 10% of the way into the story, I think. But I haven't picked that one up in a while. And then I'm also reading a book about the Hanseatic League. I'm not very far into that one. Oh, and I'm also reading a book about Gary Gygax and D&D and all that. So I guess it's 5 books. So yeah.
I mean,
I will finish 4 of those probably before I read another page of War and Peace, but, it is what it is.
I'm still in the middle of like, I'm like in the middle of the first book of the Thrawn trilogy.
The older Thrawn trilogy, like from the 90s?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, if we're talking about books, I could say I've actually started planning out the book I want to write.
Oh, well, there you go. How's that coming along?
I wrote down like 2 sentences.
Well, that's 2 more than most people ever get, Owen. So the key is to just keep going. So there's a movie you should watch. By the way, it's a good movie overall, but there's a couple like writing things about the movie that you should. It's called Wonder Boys. No, it has nothing to do with superheroes. Although half the people in it are in the MCU. Iron Man, older Ant Man, and Spider-Man 1.0 are all in it. So yeah. So the main character is Michael Douglas's character, and he's a professor at a university. Teaches English, literature, and writing. Tobey Maguire is a student in one of his classes, probably his best student. Rachel Dawes, yeah, from the Batman trilogy. The first version of her, not the second one that got blown up. She's in it. She's his TA and lives with him. And surprisingly, there's nothing going on there. But because you would think like older guy, 20-year-old girl, like there at least be like suspicions, but there's nothing there. Uh, and then Robert Downey Jr. is his agent because he wrote a book, Michael Douglas's character, and he's been working on the sequel ever since. And like you see him like writing, and he comes like the page number, and it's like 200 something, and then he adds the fourth digit to the page number, and you just see this pile of paperwork everywhere. And yeah, so his agent like keeps wanting to know like, hey, when are we going to see this book? And so he's got a few lines about writing throughout the movie that are pretty good, but the one that matters here is at the end of the movie. He is telling because some events have transpired where Tobey Maguire is possibly going to get into some trouble because he shot the Chancellor's dog in his house while the two of them were taking a look at Marilyn Monroe's jacket that the Chancellor owned that the kid ends up stealing. So, like, the Chancellor's a little upset, but as Michael Douglas puts it, like, no, he doesn't want to expel him. Like, he's trying to figure out how he can come up with a rational way to not expel him right now. Trust me. And he's like, he's telling him, what he would tell the students. He's like, you tell the students that are good at writing to keep writing because they've got it. They just need to keep writing because it'll improve. He's like, the ones that don't have it, you tell them to keep writing too. Maybe they'll pick it up along the way, but they're never going to improve if they don't. And that's when Robert Downey Jr. is just kind of like, well, Professor, I'm glad America's youth's in your hands. He's like, that's the hell kind of advice is that? But that's the sound advice is just keep writing, keep doing. So, because like Brad and I had been working on a book years ago, and we've got maybe in print probably about 40 pages worth of material written up. So, I gotta look into that, see if I can pull that together and actually do something with that. And I've got a couple other things that I started writing, and I've got ideas, but like my prose is terrible. So
No, I got ideas too, and at least like half of them I've already implemented in the D&D campaign I was running for school.
yeah. Well, I mean, some of the excuse me, some of those, you get your notes and everything together, you could probably still like actually hammer out a story for them.
Yeah.
And I know that this isn't the prevalent way people publish today, but if you look at older sci-fi and horror authors, like up through the 70s, probably even the 80s, they published all kinds of short stories. Everyone's like, oh, I've got to write a novel. Like, these guys wrote all kinds of short stories. Like H.P. Lovecraft. Like, very well known nowadays. Very well known for one or two things that he probably wouldn't like to be known for, or maybe he would, I don't know. But I'll explain that in a second. But almost all of his work is short stories. Okay, like these tales people talk about. Like I think his longest story is at the Mountains of Madness, and I think it's like 120 pages, if that. So I think it was published like piecemeal in a magazine or something.
Well, I think I have the opposite problem.
Oh, you might have the problem of Michael Douglas's character in the movie.
Too much.
Yeah. So not to spoil the movie here, but like at one point he loses most of the paperwork, and his agent's like, "Well, I mean, you can recreate it, right?" And he's like, "I have an alternate draft of the first chapter." And so there's another guy driving a car is like, "Well, what was the book about?" And he's just like, "I don't even know." And Robert Downey Jr. is like, "What he means is sometimes it's hard to put into words." Like, no, I don't know. I just couldn't stop writing. That was Tolstoy had that compulsion, if I remember right.
Which is why War and Peace was so long.
Yes. Yeah, there's something like 500 characters in that book. Like I said, I'm like 120 pages into it. We've met all kinds of people. I know most of them aren't going to be anywhere else in the entire rest of the book. Like I found the main character, I think, and so you just got to watch him leave Moscow and go fight in the Napoleonic Wars. Now,
Who's your favorite character in War and Peace?
I can't even think of the dude's name, the main guy, off the top of my head. But like, I know the chain of events that have happened so far. I've got that up here. But like, yeah, my copy of the book is literally like this thick. Like it's like an encyclopedia or something. But no, like I said, just gotta keep going. Like I think I'm getting better as I write more. Like I said, my prose is terrible. I've honestly thought about because I've read some of my nephew Levi's stuff. I thought about being like, Levi, here's what I have. Make this sound better. And like rewrite this like, an author actually would. Not just someone that's like, and then this happened, and this happened. Like I'm better than that, but I'm not a whole lot better than that is the problem, you know. And one story I've rewritten it like 3 times because I can't decide if it should be first person or third person. And like I see on YouTube, some people are like, don't choose, just make it both. And I'm just like, like that's probably the best way to do it, but like every bit of writing advice I've ever heard is like, no, pick one or the other, you know. And again, we're back to that whole predictability thing. Like that's also a thing I keep reading about sometimes. Is like you can tell there are people that think they can break the rules of things, and all they really end up showing is they don't understand why those rules existed. And then there are people that break the rules, but it's to demonstrate that they do understand why they're there, and they know when and how to break them because they're a master of whatever it is. Like Stanley Kubrick. Uh, he is, right? Before I continue. Movie director. Directed 2001: A Space Odyssey, Shining, Full Metal Jacket, uh, Eyes Wide Shut, and he was directing the movie AI when he passed away, and then Steven Spielberg finished it. Mm-hmm. And which leads to a kind of bizarre movie where like you've got all the cutesy things like the Spielberg, but like the creepy horror of Kubrick, and it's just like this nightmarish mishmash. It kind of works, but anyway, if you ever watch The Shining, he intentionally violates all kinds of filming principles with like photography and how you show characters interacting and everything. And he does it because he knows that the reason the rules exist is because that's how people are used to seeing things. And by breaking that, you subconsciously create this unsettling horror is building throughout the entire movie because things just don't look right. They literally don't look right. And so, but he understood that. And so he understood how to play with that. Someone like a Rian Johnson would just be like, oh, don't look right. And he's like, turn the camera 90 degrees or something. Like, it doesn't look right. People are unsettled. It's like, no, that's just stupid. Like you don't get what I'm saying, because you don't understand. But yeah, so he's well known for that. I don't know where I was going with any of that, but just throwing that out there, everyone. You're like, it's a literary rule I don't like. I should break this. Like, put some thought into it before you do. Is all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. As someone who's never been published, so sorry. All right. Anything else in her books? You think?
Not really.
All right. Anything under gaming? There's a topic we're going to address in gaming, but I'm going to address it under streaming because it aligns with a bunch of other things.
I mean, I've been playing a couple of games recently.
Okay. What have you played?
Well, I played this one, like, this horror game. It's newer. It released. It's like a indie game. and well, it takes place in space,
Okay.
and you're like, well, you're in a facility. There's monsters. Problem is, your character can't remember anything,
No, that's not good.
but you do eventually get your memories back.
Well, that's a
But
potential bright spot.
but they're not just your memories.
Oh.
They're also other people's memories.
Oh,
So
that could be a problem.
you gotta figure out what you're actually looking for and what's going on. Also, memories from your previous life.
Sure.
Because that's a thing.
What's this game called?
Signalus.
Signals. Well, I've heard.
It's a pretty obscure indie game.
No.
But yeah, like, as for the actual gameplay, it's quite similar like Resident Evil. It's survival horror puzzle solving.
I'll say, sounded like the Resident Evil movie there for a minute, the whole Lost Your Memories thing. Is there by any chance an AI that has a self-defense program that includes, like, knockout gas that makes you forget?
No, but there are robots.
Well, sure. It's space in the future. Of course there's robots.
Well, no, you are a robot.
Oh, well, there you go. Even better.
Yeah,
So,
I could go on for like an hour just talking about it, but we don't have that kind of time.
well, that remains to be seen, but, so, as I mentioned, just a little side note here. There is actually no such thing as knockout gas, right?
Yeah.
It was essentially just like not quite as lethal nerve gas,
Yeah.
which, as some people found out in Russia in the theater siege there about a decade ago, was it? Maybe 15 years ago?
Yeah, I read about that on like Wikipedia.
Yeah, the Russians are just like, well, we're just going to roll this gas in there. I think the gas killed about a third of the people that were in there, and then did render everyone else unconscious. And then everyone that they thought was a terrorist, they just went in and shot them while they were out cold. So,
Well,
something to be said for expediency, I guess, as long as they were all actually terrorists.
that's actually that's only the second most ridiculous Russian siege.
Oh,
Well, it's like, I think, well, alternatively, like, there was this school and a bunch of terrorists went in, took a bunch of people hostage,
I think I heard about this one. Keep going.
and so the Russian military decided to bring in APCs and tanks and just started firing.
Yeah, well,
And then, whenever the terrorists ran and hid in a different building, they just used flamethrowers. I believe it was, it's about sending a message.
yeah, definitely. That's you show the crazies that you can be crazier. Like it's like there's a comedian. I don't know if you know him, Lewis Black. Ever heard of him? Or do you know him?
No.
He used
Continue.
to be on the Daily Show when our Jon Stewart was on it. So years and years ago, he had a segment called Back in Black. It's his name. There's a song, and it all lines up. And but he also did a few stand-ups. And one, he was like, we just need to show these people just how crazy we are. We need to elect a dead president. We need to just re-elect Ronald Reagan. We'll wheel his casket down Pennsylvania Avenue. We'll get William Rehnquist's corpse to swear him in. It's just like, he's like, those people won't screw with us ever again. It's like, they'll realize that they're dealing with some legitimately crazy people. I was just like, yeah, that would be quite crazy. Yeah. His greatest segment, though, was he'd been gone for a couple of weeks and he comes back. He's like, John is like, I have found the ends of the earth. And he cuts to this video he recorded. He's standing on one side of a divided highway. Across the highway, you can see a Starbucks. And he's like, let's pan and see what's right behind me. Another Starbucks. He's like, if you're Starbucks, the game is over. You've run out of locations. You're doubling up now. He's like, what did the man who built that how did he approach his wife? Honey, I have a dream. to serve coffee to those people who need that extra boost to go get their mocha grande latte at the other Starbucks. He's like, what is even happening here? You know? And for a while in Bloomington, uh, over by the mall, there was a Starbucks and the Target in the mall. Then if you go across the highway and down like a block, there was a Barnes and Noble, which had a Starbucks in it. Next to the Barnes and Noble is a Best Buy, and then a strip mall, and the end of the strip mall was a Starbucks. So in roughly a 1 block radius, maybe 2, there were 3 options for Starbucks. Ridiculous. Now there's only 2 because the Barnes and Noble closed, but the individual one and the Target one are both still open.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with like McDonald's or Dollar General.
Yeah, well, down in Evansville for the longest time, the Walmart there on the Lloyd Expressway had a McDonald's in it. And at the end of the parking lot was a McDonald's. It's insanity. But yeah, anyway.
I mean, McDonald's in a Walmart? I thought they only put Subways in Walmart.
No. For a long, they used. Okay, do you remember whenever they actually had their own restaurants in there? It's called the Radio Grill. It's probably before your time.
It is.
Okay. Well, like the Walmart in Washington, when it used to be at the other location, had that. Okay, well, they took those out. Then McDonald's got the first choice of which ones they wanted to build in. Then the ones that were left were up for other restaurants to bid on. And initially, you ever been to a Blimpie? It's another Subway sandwich shop, kind of like Subway.
No.
Okay, well, it's superior product in almost every way. Dad used to be associated with them. And Blimpie was one of the other people competing for them. And so they put theirs into several Walmarts. But through a chain of events that I'm not going to go into because it'd be like a 10-minute story. Essentially, the people building the Blimpies were between a rock and a hard place because obviously they were going to make money if they put them in a Walmart. But if they did that, the guy who had just bought the company was going to have them sign a new agreement that was going to override their present agreement and had all kinds of terms that were just unacceptable in it. So they were like, well, we're just not going to build them. And Walmart was like, well, to keep the contract, you have to have this many in our stores by this date. And they didn't. So, long story short, I ended up having to dismantle 3 of them. So, yeah, that was exciting. And then Subway, I think, ended up taking all those, plus the ones they'd already been in. So yeah, that's why that's why you mainly see Subways in them. And I don't know if there's any McDonald's left in them. I'd have to double check on that. It's been a while since I've seen one, but yeah. Yeah. The Radio Grill wasn't bad. It was okay. Like hot dogs, hamburgers, probably cotton candy or something I'm forgetting. Yeah. So on gaming, you ever play the game or see it or hear of the game Frostpunk? It's a PC game.
I have heard of it. In fact, I think I've seen it, but if you ask me any details, I don't know.
So essentially you're in, I want to say it's like Victorian England, and the world freezes over. So it's up to you to like get a group of survivors together and, have the human race not die. And you are forced to make some rough decisions along the way. Like you have essentially a big steam plant, okay? And you have to get resources. Like you got to keep getting firewood and coal and stuff to keep the steam thing going. But you need people, but you can only expand so quickly because your thing can only generate so much heat. And so like every step of the way there's hard decisions to the point of like you might eventually be building gallows because, the people might try to rise up against you. So you got to take them out first. And if you lose, typically it's like, well, the people overthrew you and killed you. So, yeah, it's a rough game. Well, anyway, Catalyst, the company that makes BattleTech, is going to be making I think it's a board game version of it. And I just got an email about it today. So the Kickstarter is like next month, I think. So I expect to see something from it at Gen Con. Obviously, it's probably way too early to have the rules yet. If they're if Leviathans is anything to go by. So, but yeah, could be interesting. Kind of curious to see how you're going to do that in a multiplayer format, plus the kind of rough choices you're going to have to make in that one. So yeah, I need to play that game again. I got very disheartened when I lost pretty early on. Ran out of firewood. Lost too many people, sending them out into the snow to their death trying to find things. And apparently there's an unavoidable moment where you run into a bunch of other people. And you kind of have to decide, like, well, are we going to integrate? Am I going to tell them to piss off and go freeze and die? We're going to fight it out? Apparently there is no good answer to this question. I love games like that. Yeah, other than that, I haven't been playing any games at all lately. Like, board games, a few. Like I played Dominion against my sister and Levi the other day. Levi completely trashed me in that game. And then played Terraforming Mars the other day. My nephew William won that one. I suspect his accounting methods left a little bit to be desired, because there were several points where he had a lot more money than I think he should have, but I was way too tired to really plot it out and try to figure it out. I felt like that meme picture of the woman is kind of staring and she's got the formulas all around her and trying to figure out what the hell's going on. But I just no, it's too late. I'm too tired. I'm not going to mess with it. That's the way it's going to be. It's the way it's going to be. So, yeah. That's about all I got for gaming. I don't know if there's anything at all at Gen Con I'm looking forward to. New stuff.
I don't really know about Gen Con. I don't even know what I'm going to do down there.
Probably get some more footage with your dad.
Yeah, I'll probably get some more footage, buy some things. Maybe I'll actually take the time to play a board game.
Yeah, well, if you know for sure which day you're... Well, no, because you don't probably don't have your passes yet, do you?
No.
Say if you knew for sure which day you were going and you had your passes, I'd go ahead and I'd be looking into buying tickets for stuff. If you find out that you're for sure going and everything, but you just don't have your passes yet, and you see things you want to do, let me know, because I can buy tickets for other people. So, as far as the passes, not passes, event tickets. So, because there was a couple things that I didn't expect to sell out at all that sold out day one.
Like what?
There's a Forgotten Realms get together kind of thing that's run through the Candlekeep website, and I don't remember if it's Brian Cortillo or Stephen Shand. One of the two of them runs it, and I don't think in the past it's normally sold out, but this time it's sold out already. And I was like, well, I guess I won't be doing that at 9:00 Thursday night of Gen Con, which, Chris will be happy. He doesn't like waiting whenever I go to that, because it runs to midnight. So, understandable. Then, what was the other one? I don't remember what the other thing was off the top of my head, but it sold out really quick, whatever it was. I was just kind of well, all right. But I am signed up for a big BattleTech thing. Me, Chad, and our fan from Boston.
Man, if only I knew how to play BattleTech.
Well, if there's any spots available and your dad's down for it, no, wait. Is it Friday or is it Saturday? I think it's Friday is the problem. Because I think you guys are probably going Saturday. But yeah, the guy has it listed as you don't need to know how to play. And I found it on the Fans of Gen Con Facebook group. And the guy said, as long as you understand, the basics, you'll do fine. And the basics are pretty basic. So, you just need to know how to move, shoot, deal with heat, deal with armor. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of, the sequence of events. Because Battletech is one of those everything in the round, you finish the round before you like apply the things from the damage, because everything, the whole round all happens simultaneously. So they want everything to go off, like, even if you get shot and destroyed, like, you still also shot, probably, you know. So it's one of those deals. So, like, sequence of events is kind of important. And if I remember right, low number is better than high number on a lot of things. So, because like your gunnery skill, that adds to the shot, and you're trying to hit a number or below it. So you don't want to add to it. You know, you want to be like a 0-0, not a 5-5. That's bad. So yeah, because all the things in the game add modifiers to it, to the shots and the armor and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah, and Chad and I are probably gonna be testing out Mega Mech, which is the online version of the game essentially that uses like the real rules and everything to kind of get up to par. Because we won't be using normal intersphere machines. It's clan on clan action for this one. We're either going to be clan Smoke Jaguar or clan Jade Falcon. I don't know which one yet. I mean, I'm all in for the Jade Falcons, but, because they're insane. Although the Smoke Jaguars did manage to piss off the Intersphere enough, the Intersphere came back and completely annihilated them, so, they probably shouldn't have bombed that planet. They fucked up there. I'm trying to remember what the name of that planet was. I should know that. I keep wanting to say Turtle Bay, but for some reason I'm also thinking that it has something to do with Riddick. So I'm probably conflating sci-fi franchises on that one. Anyway.
It happens after a while. It all just blends together.
It does. It does. So yeah, that's about all I got for gaming. You got anything else on that one? That one?
No, not really.
All right. So, for streaming, we've got a whole lot here.
Meat and potatoes.
Yeah. I'm going to start with the movie I watched on streaming, because it was an older movie. It's the movie Noah. It's in the Ark. Starring Russell Crowe as Noah.
Was it biblically accurate?
Well, actually, Owen, I was hoping your dad was going to be here. I was going to ask him once I told him the plot to this movie, and ask him how much of this is actually in the scriptures, because I'm betting not a lot.
I mean, I've read like a little bit. All
right,
hit me with it.
Okay, so the plot is that you have Adam and Eve. They fall to temptation, get kicked out of the garden. They have at least 3 sons: Cain, Abel, and Seth. Cain kills Abel.
Yeah.
And then Cain's descendants essentially overrun the earth and like build cities and industry and have like metal weapons and armor. And some of this is because the fallen angels that got turned into rock monsters helped them. And based on that expression, I think I've already lost you on the scriptures. So, so there's fallen angels who helped man, who got turned into rock monsters. And then, like, Seth has, like, a handful of descendants, one of whom is Methuselah, apparently, who is Noah's grandfather. And they still have the sheddings of the skin of the serpent that tempted Eve, that apparently has some magic powers. Oh, there's also glowing rocks that explode that they use against each other all the time. I don't remember what that represented. I must have missed that. And this is no longer on Netflix. My friend Chris was like, you have to watch this before it leaves Netflix, and it left it the 31st, so alas, I won't be watching it again anytime soon. Let's see. So Noah receives the vision that God's going to destroy the earth. Oh, they also keep referring to him as the creator. They never call him God. And it seems that, like, the king of the other people is aware that they're the descendants of Cain. And he's basically just like, yeah, God's forsaken all of us, dude. Like, he ain't coming down here. So they see that Noah is building the ark. They think he's building a fortress. He's like, no, it's a boat. Like, gotta save all the animals. The innocent. like halfway through the movie, Noah gets it in his head that God wants him and his family to also die because man must be wiped out because man is the problem. And so, literally, like once the waters are raging and most of the people are dead. Oh yeah, he also kind of realizes that like clearly he has three sons and there's only one girl, and she's already kind of shacked up with one of them, but she's barren. And he's like, so my sons won't have wives. And he's just like, well, I guess God will provide for us here. This is before he decided that God was trying to say that they've all got to die. And so the one girl, she's barren, but then Methuselah like does some magic on her. All of a sudden, she's not. Then her and the boyfriend go at it hot and heavy, and she turns pregnant very quickly. By the way, she's played by Emma Watson, so Hermione's in the movie. And Noah's wife is Lily Connolly. I think it's her name. Pretty sure it's her name. No, it's Jennifer Connelly, not Lily Connolly. Jennifer Connelly. And yeah, I recognize the king of the. I'm just going to go ahead and call him the Canaanites. I recognized him too, but I can't think of his name. And Methuselah's Anthony Hopkins. So um, they're on the boat, and they've got all the animals on board. The king of the bad guys also stowed away on board the ship, and somehow Noah doesn't notice this guy's on board the boat for like a month and a half, eating some of the animals, which is probably why some of them went extinct because there's only two of each one, and if you ate at least one, then it's kind of the end of that line. So there's some weird CGI animals that don't exist in the real world on there too. Kind of like the weird like armadillo dog thing that you come across early on in the movie. So he basically brings the family together and is like, well, God wants us all to die along with everyone else. So turns his oldest son, whenever me and your mom are dead, it'll be your job to bury us. Turns to the middle son, whenever your older brother's dead, it'll be your job to bury him. The youngest, it'll be your job to bury your oldest brother, and then you'll just kind of die. No one's going to bury you because you're the last one. Sorry. And that kid's like 10. So, yeah. And then he finds out that Emma Watson's pregnant, and he's like, well, if they're sons, I don't care, but if they're daughters, I have to kill them because they can have kids. And, yeah, she has a pair of twin daughters. And so Russell Crowe's like, gonna kill him. And then, like, decides not to. And he's like, I failed you, God. And goes, like, they find land and, like, goes and just drinks himself into a stupor in a cave for a while. And finally, Emma Watson's like, Noah, have you considered that God put that choice in your hands so you could choose? And the choice you chose was mercy, which is the good choice. He's like, oh, I guess I never really thought about it that way. Meanwhile, his middle son's like, well, peace out, I'm going to find a wife, I guess, somewhere, and just wanders off. Then he pulls out the magic snake skin and, like, anoints the two daughters, with the heavy implication that his two granddaughters are going to marry his two other sons. Because it's kind of like, well, I guess God provided for us. It's like, I don't know about that, Noah. Like, maybe you shouldn't do that. Plus, like, there's going to be quite the age gap. Your two other sons, like, I mean, one's like 10, but the other one's like 20. You know, he's going to basically be on death's doorstep whenever his bride's ready. So, yeah. Oh, and the fallen angels got killed by the Canaanites at one point. Like, they're like, hey, we can overcome them. They're big rock monsters, but, like, they got a glowing core, like these glowing rocks we shoot at people. So he, like, shot one in the chest and blew a chunk of the rock off and then stabbed him with a big iron spear.
Oh, yes, the weak point.
Yeah. So, like, they destroy all them, and it comes down to the last one, who, I think he was voiced by Frank Langella. I'll have to look that up. He literally, like, waits till a bunch of them get around and was just like, I'm going home, like, tears himself apart and blows up and kills a bunch of the other guys, and then reascends to heaven. Yeah.
How does it end?
With Noah deciding that he made the right choice and that it's up to them to make the world a better place. And, like, pulls out the magic snake skin and, like, says it's on the grandkids now. And that's it. That's where it ended. Like, this is a very bizarre movie. They were just like this is. It felt like, what if someone knew, like, the general outline of the story of Noah and the Ark, and then like also took some things from their D&D campaign and threw it in there, and just like, but we're going to try to be agnostic. Like, we're going to acknowledge there's a creator in heaven, but we're not going to call him God or anything. It's like, well, he's there. We've acknowledged this. There's angels.
It's like someone should have write a fanfic of the Bible.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And somehow got a really big budget and actors that could act under normal circumstances, but maybe not these. Yeah, like, because I'm pretty sure there's no like chunk of the whole story where Noah suddenly decides he's going to go psychotic and kill his family. Like, I'm not a biblical scholar, but I'm pretty sure that's not in there.
No.
So, yeah, it was a hell of a thing. Because I remember Chris telling me I watched this movie years ago. Because he's like, yeah, so like Noah's there, but there's this like army of war golems fighting over here, and this with the big rock monster guys, and yeah. So whatever streaming service it pops back up on, you folks should definitely check it out. It's a hell of a ride. So that's the uncontroversial thing. Somehow.
Man, and you know, whenever you mention religion, I was...
Yeah, yeah. So, apparently, in the G.I. Joe classified YouTube realm, that's the classified figures, there's definitely a controversy floating around at the moment. There's one particular gentleman, I'm not going to mention by name, and as I get through the story, you'll understand why, who I watched a few of his videos a while ago, but I got really tired of his shtick really quickly. And I can tell that he probably knows what he's talking about, but he has his son who's like 12. And I'm just like, on the one hand, yeah, maybe you have raised him on G.I. Joe stuff and he actually knows what he's talking about. But I equate this to like your dad is and I are big Star Trek fans. Have you watched a lot of Star Trek stuff?
No.
Okay. That's what I equate it to, is like, you probably know some stuff through memes, and I'm sure you've seen some things, and you've heard us talk. But, like, I'm guessing, like, that's probably about the extent of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So imagine you were a little bit younger, and you and your dad had a show all about Star Trek, and he turned to get your opinion on things constantly, and your best answer was, that sounds awesome, that's awesome, that's cool, that's awesome. Like, that's like the sum total of your reactions. Okay? That's what's going on here. So this guy talks about upcoming figures, and he's like, I don't remember what his son's name is, and I wouldn't say it on here even if I did, because it's not the kid's fault that his dad's an idiot. And he'd be like, well, what do you think? Oh, man, that sounds awesome. And, like, literally that's all they have to go on is, like, we know they're making this figure. Don't have any pictures, no nothing. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, that kid doesn't even know who the hell that is. Like, and it's like, I got real tired of it real quick. So it turns out the guy's just been, like, openly stealing content from other creators and then claiming it as his own. I guess even going so far as, like, one interview, like, he literally just, like, cut out the other people in the interview in editing to make it look like, I guess, like he was talking to them or something. And so the rest of the community is kind of like, whoa, what the hell are you doing? And so in reaction to being called out, he's going on Instagram and, like, copyright striking all these people for all kinds of copyright things that he doesn't own the copyright to, several of which also don't have copyrights. Meanwhile, the name of his channel is a copyrighted name that he doesn't own. And so some of these people, I think, are actually going to Hasbro at this point to be like, look, this guy is clearly going to cause you trouble because he's a public face. Oh, the big thing, where most of his subscribers came from. He illegally uploaded the G.I. Joe animated movie. And it was up for a while before he got the takedown on it. So he lost the views and everything, but the 8,000 some odd subscribers, however, are still around. But ever since everyone's been bringing this to people's attention on YouTube, more and more videos are being made about it, and he keeps attacking these people on Instagram. Like, his subscribers have been dropping like a rock. So hopefully that takes care of that. But, like, no, like I said, I stopped watching him because I just and his son annoying. And I knew for a fact he had no idea what he was talking about. So, not at all like you, Owen. You actually know what you're talking about. That's why I like you on here.
I mean, yeah, regarding certain things, but like,
Well, sure. Like, okay, like with the G.I. Joe thing. The peak of G.I. Joe was very obviously back in the 80s. Okay? You could argue maybe there was a peak when one of the first two movies came out. There was probably some interest. There's been a little bit of interest recently because one of the only good comic books to come out in the last 5 years is apparently the G.I. Joe comic that I'm not reading yet. Because I have my backlog of X-Men comics is literally this tall at this point. Okay, we're talking probably a year and a half's worth of X-Men comics. I'm not going to call the comic store, who I still need to go pick up stuff from 6 months ago. Like, hey, I need you to add some books to that pile that's growing. So I haven't been reading them, but apparently, the G.I. Joe comics are excellent. Which, that was true back in the 80s, too. So, the point being, though, clearly the interest, would never align with this kid's age or anything, It'd be okay, it'd be like if I tried to say that you were a huge fan of Star Trek, the original series. It's hard for me to say that, and it came out 20 years before I was born. Not 20 years, it was 15 years. But it was run in syndication constantly on TV while I was growing up. So I arguably could have seen it all, when I was younger. This would be your dad had to be showing it to you, more than likely. Or you're watching on Paramount Plus or something. So it's unlikely, is my point. It's possible, but it's unlikely. And it'd be even less likely if you were 10 or something, Just saying. So yeah, it's just the whole, the whole thing. And then I find out about the other, and I was like, man, I didn't like this guy before because I thought he was kind of exploiting his son. But yeah, no, that really did it for me on that one. So I hope that the assault continues. But yeah. So now to the real substance of the episode.
a steak.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 4 interconnected topics we're about to talk about. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because we've talked several times on this channel about race and gender swapping and things like that. I never get any commentary on it, so I have no idea what anyone actually thinks of us talking about this. I don't know if they feel that we talk about it too much, if they look at it oh, these guys are a bunch of racist homophobes or something, I have no idea. So, for one, I want to actually, kind of clarify our stance with a compare and contrast here a little bit. And also, just talk about, an almost perfect alignment has occurred to really discuss this topic. So, number 1 is the X-Men 97 cartoon, which if you followed our other videos, I've talked about it, all the episodes. It was excellent. And yes, it's like a comics. You start with the X, excellent. So anyway, it was great. Before it premiered, there was worry in some quarters that they talked about Morph being non-binary, and this might somehow derail the show as a sign of things to come. And I did a video on that topic, and I even said at the time, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's mainly going to be a handful of references, and there's going to be 10 episodes. They're not going to have time to dedicate serious time to this. And lo and behold, I was right. There's, I think, a grand total of, if I'm being generous, 3 or 4 references to the fact that Morph is really into Wolverine in that way. And yeah, it's literally 3 or 4 references. And at one point, Rogue uses the pronouns they, them for Morph. That's it. Okay? That's everything. Okay, whenever, spoilers, whenever Wolverine is dying because Magneto tore the adamantium out of him, Morph turns into Jean Grey to reassure Wolverine, although it's really Morph reassuring Wolverine. But, like, that's it. That's all there was, okay? There was no point in being potentially upset about this or anything. Morph as a character was in a grand total of 4 episodes of the original series that had 6 seasons. Yes, obviously being from the 90s and everything, we all assumed he was likely straight. Because it was the 90s and, you know, people still just assumed those things whenever they applied to 95% of humanity. Unlike today. So, you know, fair enough. But there wasn't anything there that actually definitively said that, yes, he was straight. So, they want to make him non-binary? Fine. I don't care. You know? It did not impact the show in any way at all, just like I said. If in season 2 or 3, once we're past the reestablishing, getting things going, if they want to have an episode that's all about Morph going out on a date, I don't care. You know? It'll be kind of a waste of an episode probably, but, like, I don't care. We've reestablished the show. That was the important part for season 1. Season 2, they want to go off on tangents? Have at it. I don't care. So, I bring this up because I believe X-Men 97 is the litmus test for something. There have been 2 types of reactions from people who, going into it, were saying, this is going to be bad. Because, in all fairness, damn near everything Disney has made recently has been bad. So, it was understandable that that could be a thing. There are the people that have watched it and acknowledged that we were wrong, this show is excellent. And then there are the people who are like, see, I told you, Morph destroyed everything. The ratings sucked and it's all because of Morph. These people are grifters. They are grievance industry people. Now, normally, at this particular moment in time, a lot of those people tend to be more on the left. However, these people are on the right. They do exist. They're the people that are constantly upset about everything on the left. You know, that's basically how it works. And so, that's the litmus test. If you're watching people who are telling you, like, no, X-Men 97 was terrible, and Morph was terrible, and I told you so, and see, the ratings sucked because of this, you should it's up to you, but I would stop watching them. You know, there are people that I've seen a few of their episodes. I kind of agree to some of the things they were saying, some of the things they didn't say, but then it came to this, and I'm like, no, I actually know a little bit about this topic, like, and you are wildly wrong. And if this is the way you're presenting things, like, you're just doing it for clicks. Like, you're probably not even dedicated to what you claim you're dedicated to. And if you are, then you really need to watch this video the Drinker put out that explained that just because there's a person of color, a woman, a person in the LGBTQ community in the movie or in a lead role, doesn't automatically make it some woke catastrophe. Like, that's an insane stance to take, but it seems to be the stance people are taking on some things. And you really need to judge each thing on its own merits. So, that's why I'm using X-Men 97 as the litmus test. The people that are like, hey, we were wrong, the show's awesome. They at least have the capacity for introspection. The others do not. So, on that note, we also have the upcoming Assassin's Creed game.
Oh boy.
Where I'm given to understand you play a black samurai in medieval Japan, approximately in the Nobunaga Oda era of Japan, because that's when this guy would have been there. So, on the one hand, he is based on an actual historical person. On the other hand, this person is probably not an actual samurai, might have fought in one battle, and if he did, he lost. So, this is one of those... I mean, I'm not going to play the game anyway, because I just don't play many modern games. Why? Why would you set a game in feudal Japan and be like, well, there was that one black guy, we'll play as him. Like, put the guy in the game by all means. You know, make him an NPC, make him a playable character on some missions, you know, something, you know, because it is a cool little historical thing. But, like, if I'm playing a game full of samurai and ninjas and things like this, I'd expect I'm playing a Japanese guy because we're in Japan in presumably the 1500s. I mean, and if it's a game set in modern Japan, I'd presume I'm playing a Japanese guy. Like, I don't know if anyone out there knows much about demographics, but Japan is like 98.5% Japanese. There's not a whole lot of outsiders, black, white, or otherwise, in the country. They're just not there. So Japan's not a big fan of outsiders. You know, it is what it is. So yeah, like I would expect the same thing in China or Egypt or Saudi Arabia. Any place that's predominantly one race. I would kind of assume that's who I'm going to be playing if I'm playing in that game set in that country. But that's just me. So we have this. And this is it's just stupid. Then we have go ahead.
It's not the only problem with Assassin's Creed Shadows, where allegedly, from what I saw, the collector's edition goes for upwards of $200.
Oh yeah, I guess it's also the money grab aspect. Yeah, Owen, I have not played the Assassin's Creed games. I saw the movie, which I have no idea how accurate it is. But is it at least accurate to the point of like you're a person in the modern day projecting back into the past?
Yes.
So, as the only black guy in Japan, who clearly didn't have any kids, because there's no other black guys in Japan after that point, whose descendant are you exactly that you're projecting into this guy? How does that work? Because, like, if the person doesn't have any kids, like, he has no descendants.
Well, heck if I know. All I did was the only game I played is the third one, where it takes place in colonial America, and you play as a Native American.
Well, see, there you go. I mean, that works. Like, we're Native Americans. There still are Native Americans in America. Like, it makes sense. Like that particular period, you could have Native Americans. You could have English, French, German people. You could have black people as well.
Well, it's funny because in the DLC for Assassin's Creed 3, you play as a black person.
Yeah, I mean there's black people there. I think an Asian person would probably be a stretch. Like it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but it'd definitely be like I would need to like you need to fill me in on how exactly this occurred, but like it's not impossible. If you go a little bit farther in like the Old West, there would be, Yeah, not similar to black folks in colonial America. It wouldn't be under the greatest of circumstances, but they would be there. But yeah, so you have that, but the insanity doesn't end there. You ever watch Doctor Who?
I can't say I have. I know it's a British television show, and there's a phone booth.
Yes, you're halfway to everything you need to know. Okay, so it's the longest running sci-fi franchise on TV. It's been running for like 60 some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whenever the first guy who played the Doctor, the main character is called the Doctor, whenever he wanted to quit, they built something into the show that said he's a I'll think of what race he is here in just a minute. He's a Time Lord. Whenever he is mortally wounded, or what would be a mortal wound, he regenerates and essentially becomes someone else. He has all the memories, but he becomes a new visage, new persona, everything. Essentially, they replace the actor.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, he knows everything that happened, but he's essentially like a new person with the old person's memories. Okay. And initially they built in that he has 12 resurrections, and they eventually had to break that because they finally got to the 13th guy. Like, well, the show's got to go on. So that's not important. Okay, so as the show has gone on, there are a handful of other Time Lords out there because most of them are locked in an eternal conflict with the Daleks. Literally, it's been like sealed away from the rest of time, so there's no way in or out, or it's supposed to be. Um, so, one of the others is a villain known as the Master. And eventually, in the current run, he regenerates as a woman. And so I don't know if if this happened with other Time Lords, but like it was built up so it showed like it could happen. And there was no reason to think it couldn't happen because we're talking a shape-shifting alien here. So eventually, the Doctor turned into a woman, which had been Jodie Whittaker's character, not the current one, but the one before. Or the one before that. It gets a little complicated here in a moment. So, people had mixed reactions to her version of the Doctor. I don't get the impression any of it was Jodie Whittaker's fault. It was definitely the fault of the writing. And the episode that everyone considers the worst episode ever of Doctor Who, that they all hope becomes non-canon someday, is in her run, which is unfortunate for her. And she probably caught flack that she shouldn't have. And like in all these things, don't complain about the actors and actresses. They don't write this crap. It's like, don't complain to Daisy Ridley that Ray's a terrible character. Especially since Daisy Ridley actually stands up for the fans. And that's coming into this too here in a minute.
The only way I could see complain about an actor is if there's a good line that is just horribly butchered by the actor.
Yeah, or if you find out they actually are one of the writers, then maybe. So then when her tenure came to a close, she turned back into David Tennant, who was like 3 guys before her. Okay? And like then David Tennant split into David Tennant and the new Doctor. The new Doctor who is black and gay. Now, again, shape-shifting alien, the fact he becomes black or gay or both, I actually don't see a problem with that. Okay? Because I don't think they ever like firmly established that no, he will always be a white British guy who likes women. Like, that's just what he has been for all these generations. But there's nothing to say he has to keep doing that, because he's already broken the rules by going past 12, and then he splits, which is a whole other rule-breaking thing. So, why not? I don't care. You could easily do compelling stories with that, I'm sure. It's modern day, why not? Like I've said before, you make a story where every character in it's gay, and it's a good story, I don't care that they're gay. I want a good story. Like, you do that, I'll read, watch, whatever, And, because I don't care about that. That's just an aspect of their personality. So, their persona. The problem, though, is, like, they have been insanely vocal at the fans. They literally said, if you don't like this, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And we're pretty sure if every person we lose, we're going to gain 3 or 4. And it was about this, and also like one of the villains was a trans villain, and like started going on about pronouns and everything else in the episode. And they actually said that. Then they also said, they're also like, newsflash, the show was never made for straight white men. And it's kind of one of those, well, again, demographics, because I'm pretty sure England in the 1960s, when this came out, was like 115% white. And sci-fi is predominantly watched by men. So, no, for like 50 years, it literally was. And, yeah, like, these are the kinds of comments that, like, Hollywood started making back in 2016 after the all-female Ghostbuster movie. And it's like England, like, didn't get the memo that has not worked at all for Hollywood. It will not work for them either. And again, like, you could actually do something interesting with the premise, but they have apparently chosen not to. And the last episode of the show had the worst ratings in the entire show's history. So, like, if you attack the fans aren't going to take that. Some fans will, for God only knows what reason. But most fans are like, nope, I'm out. Like, I'm done. I'll go watch something else. What trash do the Americans have coming on here? Like, road rules, sure, whatever. Cops, fine. I don't even know if they get that in the UK. Probably not. It's probably too violent for them.
I'll have to use a VPN.
Probably. But, so yeah. So you have that. And then you have all the stuff surrounding the Acolyte for Star Wars, which, again, the trailer looks okay to me. I'm going to give it a shot. But man, is it getting ratioed all to hell. And like, there's not a problem with there being female Jedi. The one Asian Jedi, who's the guy from Squid Games, whose name I don't know. Although I hope he comes back for season 2. I think he's going to. Squid Games, not the Acolyte. I don't think Acolyte's going to get to season 2.
If he gets to season 1.
Well, it's going to get to season 1. There's too much invested in that. And we've already begun the spin on why it's going to fail. It's our fault, man. As like collectively, all of us.
I mean, when I believe like the show, when the showrunners literally said that it focuses on the politics.
Yeah, I mean, the core problem with that show is that you have Kathleen Kennedy, who keeps trying to turn Star Wars into a girl brand instead of encouraging girls to embrace the existing brand. Because there's a difference there. Star Wars, like most sci-fi properties, is predominantly male fandom. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to if you have an existing fan base, and they have demonstrated they're willing to spend stupid amounts of money on your merchandise, like, for instance, for Star Wars, you don't look at that fan base and be like, yeah, but I wish they were all women. Let's see if we can do something about that. And as near as I can tell, it's what Kathleen Kennedy is doing. And so she's alienating the male fan base to try to win over a female fan base that probably doesn't exist. And it's just destroying the franchise, when what she should be doing is like, okay, we keep doing these things to keep men involved, but let's also do some things over here to try to encourage women to come in, but don't do it at the expense of the male audience. See, that's like the disconnect that isn't happening. Because, like, again, your dad and I have talked about it. Like, look at Rogue One. Rogue One has the primary character is a woman. The almost all the characters are non-white characters, but like, no one complains about either of those things because it was a decent movie. It's a good movie. No one's saying like, oh, look at this diversity hierarchy. Like, no, they're all competent actors who did their job. No one was on Twitter from Lucasfilm like, look at this movie with no white people in it, or anything like that, which would be wrong for white people. But you know what I'm saying? Like, among the main crew there, all the men. And it's like, because they weren't on Twitter saying stupid things, they're being derogatory towards their main audience, and the movie was good, like, it all worked. Like, the formula is staring them in the face. Same thing with the MCU. Up until Endgame, things were chugging along just fine. And then they, like, got hit with the stupid ball and, like, tucked it and ran to the end zone with it. But, so, it's staring them in the face how to make this work. Star Wars, all you have to do, bring back Luke, have him not be a loser, and go. Keep Ahsoka. People like her. Keep the Mandalorian going on. Keep, I don't know, I guess Boba Fett. That one's kind of iffy, but,
Yeah, look at Boba Fett. I mean, it had a good idea. Some of the ideas were good.
Yeah. Or, like, don't fire the one woman who people kind of liked from your crew that you were going to give a spin-off show to, and then cancel the spin-off show too. Like, don't do those things.
Don't cancel like all the spin-off shows.
Yeah. And so, it's we've got this, and so now they're already coming out saying that, oh, if you don't like the Acolyte, you're just a misogynist and this, that, and the other, and the show hasn't even premiered yet.
There's so many red flags you call the parade.
Yeah. So, okay. So the reason I bring all of these things up is some of these things are what I view as legitimate complaints. Now, we haven't seen the Acolyte yet, and like I said, we got to actually see it before we judge it. From what we hear, I don't have high hopes, but, again, we heard things about X-Men 97 and it was excellent. I don't think that's what's going to happen here, but I'm willing to try it. Likewise, I'll go watch the Rey movie if they ever do actually make it. Although a lot of that is more because I have respect for Daisy Ridley, who, even though Kathleen Kennedy's out here trash-talking the male audience, Daisy Ridley's out here like, no, I've never had any problems with men in the audience. Like, most of the Star Wars audience is men. Like, I've never had any problems with them. And Kathleen Kennedy's like, oh, all the actresses in Star Wars have all kinds of problems with it. It's like, except for, the main one. Like, the one whose character gets derided constantly. She has no problems. So who does have problems exactly? Is it, like, are people trash-talking Rosario Dawson's take on Ahsoka to her face or something? Probably not. I don't even know who that leaves at that point. Like, the woman that plays Fennec Shan, like, is she getting grief over this? Or is Carrie Ann Moss, since she's in the Acolyte coming up here, like, is, Katie Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan, like, they're like, oh, you suck. They should have got the woman who did the voice. And she's like, that was me, you asshole. Like, oh, well, you still suck. I mean, like, where's this grief coming from? Who is this? Is this all just Kelly Marie Tran from The Last Jedi? Like, who, in fairness, no one should have attacked her. She didn't write the role for Rose Tico. Like,
no, it's whoever played Admiral Holdo.
Laura Dern? Laura Dern deserved better than that.
Well, I mean, just from what you're telling me, it all looks like it's just Kathleen Kennedy whining about a problem that doesn't exist.
Exactly. Like, I'm sure there are some men out there who do stupid things and send hate mail to these people. I'm sure that there are, and they're losers. Okay? No one is sitting there like, yeah, we're with those guys. Everybody is sitting here saying, screw those guys. They're dicks. We don't want anything to do with them. And Hollywood's like, we'll hide behind these because we can say, oh, look at all this stuff. Then you have to show anything. And then there are people that, for whatever reason, decide to white knight for Hollywood. Like, I've never seen so many people like, I'm going to simp for this multi-billion-dollar company that's not going to give me anything in return. That's how I'm going to choose to spend my time.
Well, I mean, in the case of Hollywood, it's not just a company, it's an entire industry.
Right. It'd be like someone who's like sitting there saying, yes, that's awesome that Target, this multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation, is raising prices. That's a good thing. It's like it's on the same level as that. And it's like, no, it's not. Why would you ever say that? And so, I don't know, that's why there's one guy's channel. His whole thing is literally just like showing reaction videos, just how stupid they are to Star Wars stuff. Where people are like, oh, look at that, it's the Millennium Falcon. And it's like, when I watch his trailers, like, yeah, it's the Millennium Falcon, it's Star Wars. Of course it's in there. Yippee Skippy, I guess. I don't know. That's so wizard. To quote Anakin Skywalker from The Phantom Menace. Actually, I don't know if he ever said that. I think it was just his one friend that said that.
Space wizards, man.
Yeah, well, he ended up becoming a space wizard. Well, space apprentice, anyway. He never got the rank of space wizard. And that was very unfair. So anyway, so like some of these complaints, they're legitimate complaints. But let's say the Acolyte ends up being okay. There's going to be some people that are going to keep complaining. And they're going to be like, oh, it's got a bunch of women and minorities. And it's like, in and of itself, that's not a problem. Like, that's perfectly fine. Like, if you watch any Kung Fu movie, it's full of Asian people in all likelihood. Like, does that make it a bad movie? No. Most of those are awesome movies. You know?
Star Wars takes place in the universe with thousands of different alien species.
Exactly. Like, Star Wars and Star Trek, I mean, like, 1970s, like, the original trilogy isn't super diverse because it was all filmed in England, and most people are white, yes. And for a while, it looked like Lando was the only black man in space. But, you know, to the credit of the sequel trilogy, that is one thing they corrected. And actually, like, even the First Order wasn't entirely white. I really figured they would be, you know. Well, I mean,
Do the historical.
like, in fairness, a lot of people compare the Empire to the German Socialist Party of the 1930s.
I mean, the First Order was even more so.
Yes. I've definitely seen a clip where they're like, "Don't watch General Hux's speech in German before they fire the Starkiller base," because like just watching it in English, you're kind of like, I don't know where we're going with this. Then all the troopers do the Roman salute, and you're like, like, I get the parallels here, guys. You can dial it back just a little bit. Of course, what's funny is the Empire is actually supposed to be America. Did you know that?
No.
That's what George Lucas said in an interview. The rebels are supposed to be the Viet Cong, and the Empire is supposed to be America, essentially. I'm just like, George, that's one of those things, like, you should just keep that one to yourself.
Yeesh, that's a hot take.
Yeah, it was. And he's just like, yeah, no one really seemed to get it. I'm just like, I wonder why. Like, no. Yeah. So there's the obvious comparisons to the Germans, because several of the weapons in Star Wars are actual German weapons from World War II, just like repurposed. And then the Imperial March, John Williams said he was heavily inspired by music popular in Germany in the 30s and their marches. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I can see it, you know. But yeah. So anyway, the overarching point here is, I don't believe Jim and myself, and presumably you, Owen, chime in here if I'm wrong. Like, we don't have a problem with women, uh, non-white people, non-straight people being in movies, being the lead character, having a story somewhat talk about that. Like, those aren't problems. That's all just part of storytelling, and we live in a diverse world with diverse peoples, and they all deserve some kind of representation. I don't have a problem with any of that. It's when it's just the brazen pandering, or when the people making these things say the stupidest things imaginable, like in the case of the Doctor Who situation or the Star Wars situation, where they're literally just trash talking fans. Like, of course you're going to fail when you do that. Did you really think that's a pathway to success? Like, just like numbers game again. If you're literally trash talking all these straight people who watch your show, who again are like 95% of the population, the other 5% isn't going to flock to your show because some of them are also going to be sitting here thinking this is stupid, and that 5% isn't going to make up for what you lost. It's just stupid. Again, with the whole trying to bring women into the Star Wars fold, you try to bring these people in by incorporating them into an existing thing in such a way that's not going to piss off everyone else. In other words, don't make token characters. Have good writing for those characters, and people will come to like them. They're not going to care that they're not white or that they're not straight. They just won't. Like, hell, Deadpool's one of the most popular characters in Marvel, and soon to be the MCU. And he's what is he? Is he non-binary? I don't remember what it is exactly. He's pansexual. That's what it was. I'm sorry, folks, not an expert in all those. So hopefully I'm not mislabeling anyone. I'm not doing it on purpose if I am. And people know that about his character. I mean, the first Deadpool movie, like, there's the moment where they're celebrating Women's Month, Women's Day. Yeah. And, like, you can tell it's definitely going on. And I'm not going to go into it here in case you haven't seen it and don't want to know. But the point is, he's an incredibly popular character because he's a character. That is an aspect of his character. The rest of the movie has good writing. It's funny. You know? Eddie Murphy, super popular from the 80s to today. You know? Because he's funny. Because he's in well-written movies. Very funny movies. People like him. Dave Chappelle. Chris Rock. They're funny guys. So people like them. They're not just token additions to the comedy scene. Like, they dominate the comedy scene. And it's just like, that's what you need. You need better written characters. And I just wish people would realize that all Hollywood is doing is trying to pander. And in those cases, just stop watching the movies. They'll eventually get the message. Maybe. Hollywood seems to take the wrong message from everything. I remember whenever Solo didn't do so well at the box office, I literally saw a headline, "Is this the end of the white male leading character?" And I'm just like, in a country of like 70% white people, probably not. But, they wanted to blame Solo and not the fact that it was backlash from The Last Jedi. And that's the problem with Hollywood is like, if there's a wrong thing, if there's a wrong message to take, they're going to take it. So anyway, like I said, in conclusion, the reason I brought all those up is because several of those are examples of just pure baloney. And, like, those things are gonna fail because of it. And these people who made them are gonna have no one to blame but themselves. They're gonna try to blame everyone else, but it's not gonna matter. And I think part of the reason that ticket sales haven't bounced back is because people are just tired of it. They've caught on to the fact that they're being preached at, and like I've said before, it doesn't matter what the preaching is. We'd have the same problem if Hollywood were run by right-wing people and they were going off the deep end. People just don't like that. They want entertainment. They want well-written characters. They want some level of predictability, like we talked about earlier. Anyway, anyone think you want to jump into any of that? Want to jump out of any of that? Want to delete that part of the video?
It's too late now.
No, I don't know. I don't really like talking about that stuff, but like, given what we talk about, and that's all that keeps coming up in the entertainment news. Like again, like I watched Furiosa, good movie. All the articles about it. Why did Furiosa fail? And the answer is always like, because it's a girl boss movie. It's like, well, no. And this is one of those, again, rare instances where it's the people on the other side making the bad claims now. It's like, no, it wasn't a girl boss movie. Maybe they marketed it that way and I didn't see it, or like I didn't see Fall Guy, but it sounded like it was an entertaining movie, but people just didn't go watch it. And now it's already on streaming. Like, came out like 3 weeks ago. A month ago. I mean, I was thinking about going to watch it. I might still go watch it.
Yeah.
Then like I look at the things that are succeeding, like Fallout, the show. That was great. I've never played the games, so I have no basis for that, but the show was great. And, it's a show with a female lead. The second is a black guy. And the third is a ghoul. So, and like the rest of the cast is reasonably diverse. And I don't know when the pre-nuke part actually takes place, but no one makes a big deal about the fact that the main guy's wife is black, that he's white, and even though it appears to be like 1960s America, somewhere around in there roughly, and no one seems to make a big deal about it, and it presents a vision of what people would have hoped America was. Uh, and then we get to see what America is when we get to the boardroom, where they're like, "So how are we going to make sure? Like, we're sinking all this money into the vaults. How are we going to make sure this actually is, worthwhile?" And Vault-Tech's like, "Well, we'll just drop the bomb." It's like, "Oh, okay, well, sure. I guess that'll do the trick then." So yeah, and that's his wife that recommends that, the black lady. And yeah, I'm hoping she's not dead. I'm assuming she's not. I think she's frozen somewhere. But yeah, it's a good show. House of the Dragon was a good show from the calamity that was the last season of Game of Thrones. But House of the Dragon was good. House of the Dragon randomly introduced some non-white characters to the mix. I didn't see many people complaining about it. I didn't have any reason to complain about it. I thought they were cool characters. Gonna kind of wonder why they aren't in the later series, but I'm assuming we're gonna find out. Um, what else has come on recently? Well, X-Men '97. I mean, that show, although it has not succeeded in terms of viewership, but critically, it's like Andor. One of the greatest things Disney's ever put out. No one watched it. Andor was spectacular. X-Men '97 was spectacular. And X-Men '97 has all kinds of messaging in it, and has all kinds of like the whole thing is about diversity, you know, but it does it with interesting and compelling characters that you care about, and so you have a narrative that you like to go along with it, and that's what it takes. So, yeah. Anyway, that's probably all I got on that one. I've rambled on way too long. Fortunately, no one watches these into this point, and I probably won't make a segment out of that. So
Where does that leave us now?
that leaves us in miscellaneous. Unless you got anything else on streaming.
Don't really have much else on streaming.
All right. Well, I think there was something you wanted to talk about under miscellaneous, as I recall.
Oh yes. So for miscellaneous, a little while ago, for the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, Hasbro collaborated with Lego and released like set based off of it, part of the Lego Ideas line. People submitted their own ideas, and one got selected. And well, I got it and I built it.
Oh, you already got it together?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Took me like 5 straight days of building.
I've never put together one of the like super massive sets because like I have one of the modulars, and I have the haunted house from the Monster Fighters line. And those are both like 1,000 kind of piece sets. I think the haunted house is like 4,000 pieces or something. So I've never put them together, and people tell me like, yeah, you just get to a point where you just kind of stop, and I'm like, I've never encountered that with a Lego set. Like I've just built them all the way through. It's taken me hours on end.
Well,
like I think the longest one, and I can't say what it was. I think it took me like 5 hours to build.
It's all about dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat build.
Yeah. Tell you, I never built it myself, but I saw the video of it. One of the things I thought was one of the craziest, more interesting things I ever saw in a build. The ship in a bottle.
Yeah.
There's literally an instruction that's like, okay, now take 242 of these little round blue pieces and dump them into the top of the thing. And it's like, it's an oddly specific number, especially since it's not all of them. But someone like it had it on video, and it's like, as you hear them all plinking down through there, and there's a lot of comments like, that's the most satisfying sound I've ever heard in my life. But yeah, or like for the Coliseum set, like one of the arch is literally like now do this like 300 more times. It's like, here we go.
And you have to count out.
Yeah. Well, I've had to do that with treads for like a Technic set I built, and it was like I don't know. There's like 60 or 70 of them in there. It was like a specific number because you have to have the right number for it to link to be solid on there and everything. For those and for oh, it's a separatist vehicle. The one that has the two kind of offset wheels.
The Hellfire droid.
Yeah. Well, there's one that has like the wheels are links, so you've got to count them as you're putting them on around the thing, so they'll actually stick and roll right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'll have to check that set out sometime. Did you buy it in time to get the free mimic figure, the free mimic set?
Unfortunately, not.
Yeah, I think you had to buy it like the first 3 hours or something.
It was kind of ridiculous. I did get a different gift with purchase though,
Oh yeah,
and I gave it to my little brother to build.
what was it?
It's like a space diner.
Oh really? The Space Diner. I've been thinking about buying that one. But because yeah, there was one around Christmas. I've got a number of the Christmas Village sets, but I wasn't going to buy anything around Christmas. But they had a thing that would fit in with them, like a stand, selling stuff. And I ended up buying it on the secondary market.
No, building it was a very enjoyable experience. And if it looks, it's big, but it's all modular, so you can take it apart in pieces to move it easier.
Well, that's cool. Well, if you get the chance, you definitely should do a video showing the whole thing off.
I will. It's got a lot of little detail. It's got a lot of hidden details. It comes with like 6 minifigures, and then you build up multiple monsters:
Yeah.
skeletons, gelatinous cube, owl bear, displacer beast, and of course the big red dragon, which has like 7 bags dedicated to it.
There you go. Yeah, the Barradur set sold out almost instantly because this is today June 2nd.
Yep.
Yeah, it sold out yesterday, June 1st, when it opened up. It sold out. They burned through all the copies of the Fell Beast that you got for free with it, and a bunch of other June 1st sets also sold out. So I don't know.
That either says something about Lego fans or Lord of the Rings fans.
Yeah, because there was a fair number of videos that were actually criticizing it, saying that for $460, people kind of expected like a backside. It's a facade like a lot of Lego sets. It's not a complete. And they're like, this is an adult set, like for $460. Like, why isn't there a backside to it? Why is it built like just a really big kid set, essentially? And then Lego's also advertising like buy multiple copies because some of the chunks are modular, just like make it taller and taller. Because I don't know if you remember from the movies, but the eye is actually above the clouds, so like the fortress is some ungodly height. So yeah, uh, I mean, I wouldn't buy multiple copies of it. I didn't buy one copy of it, so I thought about it.
You don't know how many people bought multiple copies.
Oh, I'm sure they did because it's all not for this, but for the May the 5th or May the 4th. That was where I missed out. Like I did the math on some of that, and I missed out on some deals there that like I just didn't have the money to spend on it. Like the big Cantina set.
Yeah.
It was like 25% off. I think it's 25% off, but it was also like quadruple points. Plus, there's the free stuff you would have got for buying it, and it's just like, man, because I don't know, there would have been I think $80 worth of points that you would have gotten from that, and it's just ungodly the things you could were like the $800 Imperial Walker. It was on sale and 4 times the points.
Yeah.
Oh well, but No, I think somewhere. I think sometime here in June it's supposed to be double points. If I've got the money, I'm going to go ahead and buy the newer medieval market because I think it looks really good. And at some point, I need to get the $400 castle because it looks pretty cool too. Like, I think I don't think it looks better than the Barad-dûr set, but I know I'm basically getting a gigantic Lego castle. I can live with it there. So, anyway, if I do, I'll show them off on here at some point. I've still got like 5 sets I haven't unboxed because I want to film building them. But I've got a TIE bomber. I've got the fighter from the Buzz Lightyear movie. I really like the look of the fighter. Um, I have the Galaxy Explorer, and I've got a few of the newer space sets. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully we'll see the set on here at some point. Don't know if we got anything else for miscellaneous, Owen. I think we've probably rambled enough.
Miscellaneous. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't really have much more to say about the Lego. I mean, it was fun to build.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let me ask you a question then. Because I hear people say that. I get fulfillment from building it and, like, when it's done. But, like, whenever you say that, what exactly do you mean?
I mean, I just feel like it's rewarding to see it fully done, and it, seeing it in progress gives you, you just, I don't know, look back and see how far you've come.
Yeah. Like I said, I hear people say that sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know if I call it fun when I build it. But people use that term a lot when describing it, and I'm like, I don't know what about it would be, but so I was just kind of curious because, like, I get a lot of the rest of it. You know, like I said, like I agree with you. Once they're done, that sense of fulfillment, accomplishment. If it's a spaceship, seeing how swooshable it is, you know.
No, yeah, it's kind of funny because the set actually came with a pre-made adventure, and I looked through it, and I don't know, it's not the only like pre-adventure I've saw on like D&D Beyond or whatever, but I just have to say, like, I don't. It's why is it so bare bones? There's nothing there. There's no substance.
The set of the adventure.
The adventure. Now, the set's good, but like, I mean, I get it's free, so I shouldn't be expecting top notch. But it's just like the most basic details. It's like if you don't add your own spin on it, there's nothing there.
Do you have the free adventure from Wendy's?
What?
Yes, Wendy's, the restaurant, the hamburger chain.
I'm quite familiar with it. We don't have one around here anymore, but
Which is a shame. I love their fries. Um, yeah, they have. I don't know if it's still available. I'm sure it's available somewhere online. But they had some kind of promotion at one point, and it's like going through like the land of Wendy's or whatever. Yeah, it's like a D&D adventure set in whatever the hell they call their fictional world for Wendy's. Hamburgia, I don't know.
no. But I mean, I paid like $380 for this Lego set, and you give me something I could have came up with in like 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, you know, don't expect you get what you pay for. Although that's not really the best phrase here, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I it was free, but with that,
Yeah, you need that Wendy's adventure, then the Arby's dice. Yes, Arby's has an RPG set of dice also.
I
I really should have bought some of them because they go for insane amounts of money on the aftermarket. As you know, Arby's, which despite what Perch from Comics by Perch says, is a good place to eat.
it's always people bash. Like, I don't think any restaurants are outright bad. Like, people bash Burger King. I don't think it's that bad.
Outright bad restaurants. Give me just a moment on that one.
I mean, like, people say, well, like, Arby's, Burger King, they're both bad. They're just mediocre. I actually like them.
Yeah, I mean, my complaint is that it's like whenever I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to go eat for lunch, I've got my choices are ultimately like Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, Arby's, Taco Bell, Hardee's, and then like Godfather's Pizza from a gas station, which tastes better than it has any right to. So I don't really count that one. So I kind of look at them and I'm like, each of them has something I like, but none of them has like the total package. Except for Wendy's, I like their burgers, I like their chicken sandwiches, I like their fries. And then I come to the problem of like, I think the one in Washington doesn't have the freestyle machine on the drinks. And non McDonald's Cokes don't taste very good. So I'm stuck on the drink. I go to Arby's. I can get 2 sandwiches for $6. That's great, but I'd kind of like some fries. Unfortunately, they're like $3.50, and then the drink, which is going to be like a terrible drink because Arby's drinks suck.
Do you prefer Coke or Pepsi?
I prefer Coke, but Pepsi's fine. I'm not one of these like, oh, I only drink Coke. Like, no, Pepsi's fine. Like, I just don't care for their drinks. I go to KFC, I'm way overpaying for fried chicken, essentially. It's good fried chicken, but I wish I had a Popeyes. And then I'm back to the Pepsi products of the drink. I'm going to prefer a Coke. I go to McDonald's, and it's like, it's cheap-ish these days, but like the only one of their sandwiches that has any substance to it is the double quarter pounder. Like the rest of them just feel like you're not eating anything to me.
They're so thin.
And so it's like, yeah, it's cheap, but you're getting what you're paying for. And then there's the Bell, which is just like that random out of left field choice where it's like, okay, I'll go there. I can get a couple like cheesy beef burritos for like $6 for a couple of them and then a drink. Or I can spend like $13 on a combo. And it's like, man, I'd like that chicken quesadilla, but you screw it up half the time. So, you don't seem to screw up the burritos. Except when I order them without sour cream, and you still put the sour cream in there, you bastards.
Yeah.
But I'll get like a chicken quesadilla, and there'd be like 4 pieces of tiny ass chicken in it. It won't be cooked all the way, so the cheese isn't melted. And once or twice, it's come with sour cream when it doesn't have sour cream to begin with. They just put it in there randomly, and I'm just like, when you make these right, they taste good. I like their chicken quesadillas, but the quality, like, it's just not good. So I'm stuck with like there's bits and pieces from different restaurants I like. And I don't want to go to 5 restaurants to assemble a meal. So it's going to cost me like $15. So I usually just end up going to McDonald's because it's like, well, if I can't get what I want, at least I'm going to save money. So yeah, it's even worse here in town though because even fewer choices. It's McDonald's, Subway, Taco Bell, Dairy Queen, and our local Dairy Master. Which I like their food, but you got to call it in unless you want to sit there for 20 minutes. Or you go to Dairy Queen where you don't call it in, you just order it and you're going to sit there for 20 minutes.
Yeah, service isn't always the best.
No, I actually like Dairy Queen's food. Their burgers are good, their chicken baskets are good, but it's like $8 for a chicken basket. I mean, I guess it should be. It's chicken strips, fries, and toast, and gravy, and I mean, it's most of the meal right there, I guess. You know, but yeah, I don't know. That's probably rambling enough for now.
Miscellaneous.
Yeah, that was very miscellaneous. So, yeah, all the fun. This is probably going to wrap it up for this meeting of the Geek Cabal.
Cabal Whisperings.
Yeah, there'll be enough whisperings for tonight. So, folks, like what you saw, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It's YouTube, you know how it all works. Leave some comments down in the commentary. If you somehow made it this far, which I think there's only like 2 people out there that actually watch it this far, and we thank you for that. Just know that this will probably be broken up into bits and pieces over the next couple weeks. So, except for that really long spiel where I probably went way too far on some things, but you know, that's what happens when our Jim's not here. So, anyway, thank you folks for watching, and we will see you next time.
See ya.